Coming up on American Medicine Today, veteran suicide rates are at an all-time high. However, retired Major Scott Huesing is raising awareness in an effort to curb the incline. He shares why he's chosen to ride his motorcycle across America, plus his new book, Youker and Ramadi. Then we check in with Brandon long after our first visit to see how well the patented Bonati Spine Procedures are holding up. He shares his amazing experience and is thankful to be living pain-free. Finally, Dr. Bonati explains why he broke away from traditional spine surgery and created his own patented procedures. Why is the industry obsessed with the latest devices that seem to have no benefit for the patients? Find out coming up on American Medicine Today.
Featuring cutting-edge science and medical innovation, touching personal stories of recovery from pain, along with political, social, and healthcare issues plaguing our nation. This is American Medicine Today, brought to you by the Bonati Spine Institute and Alfred Bonati M.D.
Welcome to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bonati alongside Ethan Youker and world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Alfred Bonati. So a best-selling author and retired U.S. Marine Corps major recently completed a motorcycle ride across the country to raise awareness for veteran suicide. Please welcome Major Scott Huesing, author of Youker and Ramadi, and executive director of Saving the Brave. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. It's quite an honor. Thank you.
Why don't you tell us why you decided to do this ride again? And this year, you have a very personal story involving a friend of yours. Is that correct?
Well, a lot of things that come in our veteran space are born through tragedy and loss and sacrifice. That's how we started Save the Brave 8 years ago when we lost one of my squad leaders. And then 4 years later, another good friend of mine, Dave White, who I went to high school with, committed suicide. And his mom asked me to give the eulogy in South Carolina. So the height of COVID, no flights, I hopped on my Harley and I decided to ride across the country. And it was along the southern route. We took 16 days, 5,150 miles. And for some reason, my team at Save the Brave, they just started sharing it on social media, and it's really turned into this Forrest Gump-like event where, anywhere from 5 to 150 riders have come out with me, and so that's how it was born. This year was our fourth year. We rode 9 cities in 9 days, from California to Savannah, Georgia, and wow. Temperatures exceeded 120 degrees. We probably rode for a good 700 miles in 115 degree temperatures and above. And despite all that heat and the physical nature of the ride, we still had probably twice the amount of attendees and riders, and then the communities in each city that came out to support us. It's one of these events that exposes the best of the human condition every time I do it, and I'll keep doing it.
What are some of the, more interesting things that you saw along the way that you can share?
Well, every year I'm known to run out of gas, at least for one or two of the legs. This year I did it next to a brush fire in Arizona, and the people around me always, it's good for morale, I guess. So they see the guy out front who runs out of gas because he's too busy doing other stuff, but the people we meet, not just in our veteran tribe. I've got so many stories from the past 4 years, but this year I had one veteran come out and he took me aside, real soft-spoken, retired Marine, Master Gunnery Sergeant, and he handed me a gift with Dave's name on it. It's a dog tag and a bracelet. And, I thought about the enormity and the thoughtfulness of that one small gesture, just to get the name spelled right, to go to the store, pick it up, put it in a little box, bring it on your Harley, and then hand it to a total stranger. But what he said to me afterwards was most important. And the reason we'll keep doing this ride for the brave is that he had tried to take his own life 3 times. And, I served alongside these guys, and you think they're made of, drop forged steel, but, it catches up with you, all the trauma. And that's most important to me as we try and prevent veteran suicide is move away from all this darkness and these drowning veterans on commercials and parading amputees on Super Bowl ads. We have to highlight the greatness of our veteran tribe because it's having a real impact on our military recruiting establishment. And we have to sustain that. We have to show this next generation the greatness of our military. And I think that's one of the benefits of this year's ride is we had a ton of media really highlighting this great story.
And what would you say is some of the Save the Brave's biggest message
stay connected. There's no vaccination. There's no magic pill the VA gives those that have fought and sacrificed some of the best years of their lives in some of the worst places of the world than staying connected. And we have been doing that successfully for 8 years through our offshore fishing program. Everything is physical. We have a scholarship program for the veterans who've committed suicide and their children and families, because we never want to forget about those that are left behind. And we're really proud of that. We're doing our small part to really make an impact. And we do that through donor funds from private donors. And it's always a call to action to remind people what you spend money on every day. $10 for a cup of coffee, $50 for half a tank of gas, or whatever it is, you can really make an impact. And you'll probably never see the benefit of that, but you have to have faith and understand at SaveTheBrave.org. All the money we raise through these events, they go right to veteran programs, because we're really trying to change people's lives and then empower them and show them what right looks like, so they come back to us and ultimately volunteer and see that there's a whole country, thousands, tens of thousands of people that want to come out, that love them, that support them. And I'm reminded that every time I do the Ride for the Brave, because it just takes looking in that rearview mirror and I see 30, 50 bikes and first responders escorting me into every single town. It's pretty humbling.
It's kind of run the gamut of the spectrum. We've had a lot of people detracting and saying they just, they don't have anything to do with us when we get back. A lot of times we're treated with scorn. There's long waiting lines and things like that. But then we've also here and there had a few people on that said, I've had a great experience with the VA. Were you happy with your own VA experience? And do you think they're doing enough for our servicemen and women as far as mental health is concerned?
No, they're not doing enough. We're not doing enough for the active duty military side. I've not been happy with it. I've heard hundreds of horror stories about the bureaucracy. Getting forms online is problematic. You have to be a wizard to navigate the online portals. There's not a human connection. And what we're doing at SaveTheBrave.org is really filling one of those gaps that the VA is either incapable or unwilling to do. And we do that in part with a huge support network of over 45,000 veteran support organizations registered with the IRS. And that seems like a lot, but in comparison to the percentage of those who serve their country, it's about on par. So the VA is not doing their part, but on the active duty side too, when we transition these men and women from these really high impact, high stress jobs, they don't do a great job about transitioning on the psychological, the mental, the physical side. They talk a little bit about the vocational, but it's normally some contractor that's never spent a day in the private sector teaching how to build a LinkedIn resume. And that's not adequate, in my opinion. And we're seeing the effects of it because people are beat down by the system. They want easy access and they want advocates if they don't know how to navigate the system. And we're trying to provide services at SaveTheBrave.org. So those people that are in those friction points, we're able to provide resources through a vast network over the last 8 years, and we're pretty proud of that.
Sounds fantastic. At least you're there to be kind of the backbone for those military servicemen and women when the VA or the military itself is letting them fall through the cracks. Now, if we can turn and talk about Echo in Ramadi, why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, I wrote Echo in Ramadi just to share an important piece of military history, but also the stories of the men and women and the families that fought with me, that supported us while we fought, and for the families that still support us this day. And it's heartening, too, as I do this Ride for the Brave just this year. One of the Marines I wrote about, I would have written about everyone if I could have, Sergeant Jonathan Espinoza surprised me in Conroe, Texas, when I rolled in there with my entourage, and another one of my Marines popped in along the way. So it's one of these stories that is about this. It's about this power of human connection, and it's about leadership and team building and overcoming adversity. And it's about people. That's really what the story is about. And I wrote it not just to honor those in the book, but so that the other 99% can really understand the service and sacrifice that these brave young men and women give every day. And if it wasn't for their leadership every single day on the battlefields, we fought 5, 6, 7 times a day, I wouldn't be sitting here with this interview, because they literally took care of each other and me better than anything I'd ever seen in my life. And it was my pinnacle of my career and the utmost honor to still be connected to many of the Marines that served under my command through Save the Brave because they want to volunteer and help support our tribe.
Certainly sounds inspiring. Thank you so much, Major Scott Huesing, for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Make sure you stay tuned. Coming up after the break, a story of recovery. Don't be screwed by lesser spine institutes who bait you with minimally invasive procedures, then switch to screws, rods, disc replacements, and hardware. At Bonati, no metal hardware fusions are ever used. Bonati invented the precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati Spine Procedures, they consistently reflect 98.75% patient satisfaction. Over half our patients have suffered from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail. Welcome back to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bonati. We would like to take time to introduce to the show Brandon DeYoung, and he's from Sidney, Nebraska. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Brandon, why don't you tell us how you came to be in pain?
So I'm a paramedic, and I was helping on an accident scene, extricating a patient from a car accident, and twisted wrong, getting underneath the vehicle, trying to get the patient out, and started having lower back pain, mid-lower back pain, and then pain in my left foot.
How was that affecting then your daily activities? Because as a paramedic, you're trying to be as agile as you can be, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I had to take a decent amount of time off. Actually, that night I had to take the rest of the shift off, and I got stuck on the floor, couldn't get off the floor. My wife had to try to help me get me up that evening, but I pretty much had to take quite a bit of time off from work to try to recover from that. And then I actually had to go part-time with the EMS just because I couldn't function in that. So I ended up this last year, I have a construction company also. And so I was doing construction and climbing ladders, lifting stuff, jackhammering out concrete, finishing concrete, framing. And finally, one of my guys told me, he's like, hey, you can't even climb this ladder to put up soffit. You should probably go get your back looked at. Wow. And so that's when we started looking for you guys.
How long did you go before somebody told you seek out medical treatment?
Well, I could kind of pick my good days and my bad days, and then the guys would help me out quite a bit. I've got a couple employees that do a really good job, and so we look out for each other, and they really had to pick up a lot of work on that. Yeah. And so, so that's kind of how we handled that. 2 years was how long I went without getting it. I thought, well, maybe I'm just being a kind of a wimp, and I just need to suck it up and keep going.
2 years and you think you're a wimp? Oh my gosh. I have like 2 minutes of pain and I'm whimpering and whining all over the place. I know you said that you had foot pain. So yes. Did that cause any type of drop foot, or was it just kind of a numbing pain? Can you describe that? And
it didn't. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it didn't actually cause any drop foot symptoms.
Okay.
It just felt like somebody smashed the outside of your foot with a hammer, basically. It just hurt kind of all the time, and it was an aching pain. If I stood a lot, it got quite a bit worse. So I don't know, it didn't have any of the drop foot symptoms, but it still definitely wasn't comfortable.
So how was it exactly that you're in Sidney, Nebraska, and you find out about the Bonati Spine Procedures?
Well, my wife started doing some research because right after the incident, I went to a more local area or doctor here with workman's comp, and they said, we'll do 3 or 4 fusions on you, and you'll be fine. And said, well, I'm 27, I don't really want to have fusions and a back surgery at this age. And so I said, nope, I'll just take it easy and hope it heals. And so then we got to this point. My wife started looking around online. She started doing some research. She found you guys, and it was kind of crazy because it's I can't remember. I think it was like a Thursday she found it. And I thought, I'll put it off till Friday. Mm-hmm. And so I get online. Everything's so super simple online to sign up for it. It was amazing. They're like, we'll give you a call within the next couple of days. I think it was like 15 minutes. I had a phone call. And everybody's super helpful, walked me through the next process. They're like, yeah, in the next 3 days, you'll have somebody else call you back for more information. And that phone call was the same Friday. Basically, we found you guys on a Thursday, signed up everything on a Friday, MRIs on a Monday, and then we were booking flights by that Wednesday.
So
it all happened relatively quick. But the one thing that's astonishing to me that you just said was the fact that they previously, a doctor's office was trying to talk you into multiple fusions. So not even just one fusion, but multi-level. And this is something we discuss each and every week on our program. A 1-level fusion fails 65% of the time, and a 2 to 3 level fusion fails 85% of the time. Like, why on earth are people trying to talk patients into that? It is so spooky. But evidently, you and your wife got into the research and you found the Bonati Spine Institute after suffering from 2 years in pain. What was the experience like when you were face to face with the surgeon?
So it was pretty cool to just be able to talk with him, and he put my MRIs up on the screen, and we kind of just walked through each one, and he was kind of saying, hey, this is where this symptom's coming from, this is where this symptom's coming from, and then here's what our plan is to fix it, which was pretty encouraging.
Now, we utilize something called conscious IV sedation. It affects everyone differently. Some remember everything, some bits and pieces, some don't, and some have sung and told jokes all the way through. But what was the experience like for you?
I think is very smooth, I guess, for me. I do remember a little bit of it. I know a lot of people I've talked with people about this, and they're like, man, I don't think I would do that just because I remember being in pain. Well, you don't remember being in pain a whole lot. Every once in a while, you'll ask them, they want you to do something. And so then you do a certain movement or something like that. And I remember a couple little jokes or something that we were talking about.
Yeah.
But everything was very smooth. They asked me, hey, can you do like a modified push-up? And I hadn't been able to do that, arch your back backwards. And I remember them asking me to do that. And I remember being amazed that I could actually do that without severe pain.
Back pain should be totally gone.
Okay. So just like a straight push-up or for...
Yeah, push up. All the way up. Higher. Then
now arch your back like that.
Arch your back. So a half push-up.
No back pain?
Oh, no back pain at all.
All right, good. Down.
And did you watch?
I remember like they brought a screen over, and I remember seeing some of it. It's a little foggy, but I do remember a little bit of watching some of it and thinking it was kind of weird because like that was in my back and I'm actually watching it right there. And It was really cool. It was pretty cool.
Post-surgery and recovery, what was that like for you and how are you doing now?
Well, I think that the post-surgery, they're like, yeah, go walk about a mile. And I'm a little bit zealous. And I think we probably walked 4 miles or so, 5 miles. I probably wouldn't recommend doing that again, but it was amazing. Like I could get in and out of bed. I had to have a little bit of help for the first day just to try to learn how to move again. Cause with the back issues I was having, I learned how to get out of bed. You can just sit up and get out of bed. So I had to relearn how to get out of bed like a normal person does, but everything was really well. I was able to put on my shoes and walk around and pretty much function normally. So that process was very smooth.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your story of recovery with us. Continued good health and healing. Thank you so much, Brandon DeYoung, for being on the program.
Thank you.
Take great care. If you would like to find out if you're a candidate for the Bonati Spine Procedures, visit askbonati.com or search the Bonati Spine Institute on YouTube.
I think everybody was shocked, like, really, you had surgery today? I had a drain tube. I was at my desk doing payroll for 200 employees, worked till night, got up, went to bed.
Actually, the recovery was great. I mean, I really immediately felt the difference. I was able to go back to work within a couple of days.
The progress after each procedure was amazingly good. The recovery, all told, has been phenomenal.
I went in there at 10 o'clock, got operated on. At 12 o'clock, I was walking out on my own.
We went to the Bonati Institute, and that was the turning point in my life. This type of surgery is so much more advanced, and the recovery time is so much less that it's just a no-brainer. If you've got pain, go to Bonati.
This is the honest to God truth, and was recovering. I didn't feel anything. The pain that I was suffering is gone. I can go back to work in like 3 days.
The surgeries that I had, actually, I recovered very easily from, I would say. I actually went to work the following afternoon.
That afternoon, when it was done, I actually felt so much better already.
6 days after surgery, I was back in the gym, slowly but surely working my way back to fighting, back to basically 100% of fighting, you know? So 6 days, and everybody wasn't all like, didn't you just get out of surgery? I'm like, yeah, I feel great. And like, okay, let's see how you do. And I was rolling with everybody, and I'm in the advanced class. So that sounds a lot right there.
First time I came in here was Monday, and today is Thursday. I've had 2 surgeries and am doing fantastic. I'm still in shock that I can walk. That's all within 4 days.
Bonati succeeds where others fail. Welcome back to American Medicine Today. So, Dr. Bonati, what is new in the industry of spine surgery?
The industry in spine surgery is very much on one side. It's not really looking at the results that the patient has, neither is looking at the expenses that cost, and they are creating more and more instruments that they are practically useless. The expansion of those instruments not only is very costly, but at the same time create problems in 2 directions. An economical direction because patients cannot afford it, so they need to go to insurance companies to pay for this. So the insurance companies practically deny these treatments, so the patient remains in this type of a pain, or they have results that they are not satisfactory.
So they're stuck in limbo. It's either that or not being treated.
Correct. The amount of surgeries that they are being done in the country last year is a little bit more than 8 million people. When you start to see the enormous amount of expenses in that, and you start to see that the results are very questionable, something that we are doing is wrong. My profession, that is orthopedic surgery, I try to move more and more towards arthroscopic procedures that they are going to be fast, they're going to be effective, and they are going to be something that the patient needed.
Why do you think the rest of the industry is still introducing devices that are making people worse?
Because it's economically a tremendous incentive by the industry to create new tools. And those new tools, every time they become more and more expensive. Recently, it's an idea that the surgeons need better visualization. And to do that, they are trying to do surgeons to have an X-ray vision. In certain way, looks very much high-tech. The problem is the cost of the high-tech is going to be tremendous. If today we see that the cost of spine surgery is very expensive, with these new technologies that they require instruments that they are involving artificial intelligence, they are going to be extremely expensive. The results are going to be as bad as the results that we have today. The problem is nobody really is looking at what really is the problem in a patient. You don't only need to see what is wrong with the patient, but it's what is wrong with that specific nerve. What that specific nerve is creating that creates the pain or a lack of function. But you need to understand the path, you need to understand the nerve, you need to understand the patient, and you need to understand the tremendous amount of different possibilities that structure can be affected.
And they're not being taught that during their education?
No. The education in medicine is very superficial. Practically, the use of the medical care is based on your practice. Once you start to practice, you start to use and develop techniques or develop treatments or develop ideas that they serve the patient better. And they allowed you to serve better to a specific type of population with a specific problem. I don't think there's anybody in the world who has on their hands the amount of surgery that we practice in a specific part of the body for the last 40 years. So the knowledge that we have there is so incredible that allowed us to practically solve the majority of the problems that they are on the spine. That type of knowledge is not being used. That type of education doesn't exist. And the instrumentation is going more and more to fusions. There are companies that they are creating this type of instrumentation. They had some demonstration recently that they had 4,000 patients that they were operated.
Okay, and how did they do?
But let me tell you this, all those patients were fusions. We know fusions don't work. The fact that you use a very sophisticated instrument, I promise you that that's not going to solve the problem. The problem is that what this surgeon is going to do with that instrument and why.
Right.
And that is not clear. The next thing that happens is when they talk about 4,000 patients were used to do this procedure, they don't talk ever. What was the result with those patients? Why those patients were operated? What type of a problem the patient presented that they required this treatment? And what type of a technology that is associated with the one that they are using is producing some type of a damage on the vertebrae and on the structure. That do we understand how much damage is there? Do we understand how much involvement this technique needs? Then the problem is the instrument is wonderful. I don't care about the instrument.
Right.
We have better techniques and better results, and that is what needs to be looked at.
You need to be focusing more on the patient's perspective. How are they doing post those procedures? And normally 1-level fusions fail 65% of the time, 2 to 3 level fusions fail 85% of the time.
So a surgeon needs to understand when he's going to use the instrument and why he's going to use the instrument and for what he's going to use the instrument. And that is the problem that we have with the industry today.
Well, hopefully with your procedures, you're setting a new standard. Thank you for watching American Medicine Today. You'll catch us next week. If you have any comments or questions, contact us at the numbers below. Or you can tweet at Dr. Bonati using the hashtag American Medicine Today or hashtag AMT. We would like to hear from you.